Hi everybody and welcome to our Apprenticeship Service webinar today. In our session we're going to be having a look at the new Enter Learning Data Service, and this webinar is for training providers, especially for those that need to return Individualised Learner Record data to DFE and who currently use the Learner Entry tool. It's also for those that don't have a data management system, and as well as that, it's also for those providers that are thinking about moving from their current system. Hi, my name's Nick Duff from the Service Engagement team, and I'll be looking after today's webinar. What I normally do at this point is do a reminder and just let you know that the webinar is being recorded. And can I remind you that by registering and attending today, you've given your consent and you're agreeing for the webinar to be recorded and uploaded onto our YouTube channel. If you feel that you've changed your mind regarding that consent, can I please ask that you dial off? As for the recording of the session, I'll tell you how you can access that onto that YouTube link a little bit later on. So hopefully you'll all notice that you've all automatically been placed on mute, and you'll stay on mute throughout the webinar. So our plan today is that we're going to introduce you to the Enter Learning Data Service, and I've got some colleagues with me here to do that. What they're going to do is they're going to give you a live walkthrough of the service, and they're going to show you in service how you can add and manage learners and how you can add and manage courses as well. They'll then talk you through the benefits of the new service and show you how it links into other DFE services. And then what they're going to talk to you about is some of the upcoming enhancements to the service as well. And then once I've done that, we'll move into a Q&A session. And then once we're done with the Q&A, I'll let you know how you can access a handout for today's webinar, and that handout will have all the key links that we'll be referring to during the session. So if you have questions for any of the presenters today, what I'd like to do is to pop them into the questions tab, and you can find that on the control panel. This should be on the right hand side of your screen, so you need to look for a heading called questions. If you click on that, you can type your questions into that. We'll try and get through as many of them as we can during the day, and we'll aim to cover all the main points that you raised during the Q&A, even if we don't get around to answering each individual question. And we won't look at questions that don't relate to today's topic. So we're expecting this session to go for about 50 to 55 minutes, but we've allowed 60 in case we get lots of questions or we need to just overrun slightly on our plan. Can I also remind you that at the end of the session, as you leave the webinar, you'll be taken to a short survey. We'd love to know what you thought about today's webinar, so please just take a couple of minutes to answer a few quick questions and give us your feedback. Okay, so my colleagues that are here to do the heavy lifting today are Lynn Burton, who's the product manager on the Enter Learning Data Service. She'll be the one taking you through the main content. And we've also got Sue Farncombe, who's a business analyst, and she'll pitch in on the Q&A panel at the end. So big welcome to both of you. I think we're ready to start. Lynn, I'm over to you. I think it's the Lynn show today.
Thanks, Nick, and hello to everybody. My name is Lynn. I'm the product manager for the Enter Learning Data Service. Thank you. So Enter Learning Data is a service for training providers, including employer providers who, as Nick said, need to return the ILR information, but either don't have access to a management system or are contemplating switching from their existing service. Enter Learning Data has been designed to replace the Learner Entry tool. Like Learner Entry tool, Enter Learning Data is available free of charge to anybody who wishes to use it. In a difference to the Learner Entry tool, it is an online-only service, so you do need a DFE sign-in account to access the service. The DFE sign-in account gives you access to multiple services, and all you'll need to do is make sure you've got the Enter Learning Data role assigned to your account. So if you already have an account for accessing things like Submit Learner Data or the Apprenticeship Service, it will be the same account that gives you access to the new service. So if we can move to the next slide, thank you. So we've spent a lot of time designing Enter Learning Data to really try and improve the user experience for the people using the service. And there's a number of areas that we've spent time on. So one of the areas is reduced data duplication. So we've tried to identify data items that you can enter once and use many times. So to try and minimize some of that duplication that you have when entering learners onto the same course. Within the service, there's also real-time validation to help you get the data right at the point of entry. So that will advise you on how to resolve errors, identify fields that have been missed that are required. We've also built the service using guided user journeys. So the ILR is quite a complex data set. We've designed the user journeys to only show you the ILR fields that are relevant for the type of provision or type of course that you're offering. So we've tried to take away seeing some of the fields that aren't required. We've also built into the service links to relevant guidance. So we understand that some of the ILR fields could be quite tricky and a bit more complex. So we've got links out to really specific guidance. We've also got on-screen hint text in the areas that we think that will help users. We've built into the service links into other DFE services that you will be using whilst compiling your ILR data. So services like the Learning Record service, if you need to find the unique learner number for your learner, links to find a learning aim, and they're at the points in the service when you're most likely to need them. As I mentioned before, we've moved it to an online web access using DFE sign-in. And what this does is it allows for multiple users from the same organisation. So one of the pain points that we had with Learner Entry Tool was it was installed locally, so only one person per provider could use it. Because we're now using DFE sign-in, it enables you to give access to more people from the same organisation, which will just help manage the data entry part. And then finally, the data is stored within the DFE environment, so it gives you that security of knowing that data is going to be kept safe for you. In terms of the features available within the service, it is slightly different to Learner Entry Tool. So we've got the ability to add and manage learners, and also the ability to add and manage courses. The concept of a course in Enter Learner data allows you to create the course once and then assign learners to it, so you can use that data multiple times. You can import data into the service, so an existing ILR file. We'd expect this normally to be a one-off activity at the first time you start using the service. You can migrate your data. So unlike the Learner Entry Tool, the system is multi-year, so it will have all academic years contained within the same service. And when we get to the end of one academic year and the new year opens, you can choose when you want to migrate your data to that new year, and it will follow the migration rules for you and copy the relevant data across. And then finally, you can export your data. So this will generate your ILR file in the right format for you to use in some of the DFE services. So either for upload to submit learner data, or to use in FIS or PDSAT, whichever services you're using. When designing the service, we've undertaken a lot of user research to make sure we're designing a service that meets our user needs. We're still building the service, we're still undertaking development, and we're continuing that user research. So if you are interested in participating, either if you've participated before or if you haven't, there will be a link at the end for you to access that survey. And some of the feedback we've had from people that have been using the service is that it's much faster, it's more user-friendly, it's more streamlined. We've really tried to design something that's going to make it easier for you to get your data right and create the ILR file that you'll be submitting to us. We're now going to move on to a demo of the service. Just so that you know, we'll be using a test environment, so all of the data contained within the service is test only, but it will let you see how the system works.
So you're just going to have to bear with us while we're handing over control, because normally it just takes a couple of seconds. So whilst that's waiting, can I just remind everybody that if you've got questions, remember to put them into the questions tab, which you can find in the control panel. I think we're with it. Yeah, I can see the demo now.
Perfect, that's great, thank you. So when you log into Enter Learning Data, at the minute, because we're only in one academic year, it will default you into the current year, but you can change that to pick a different year. And at the top, you'll see the different areas that we mentioned. So learners and courses, then import, export and migration. What I'm going to start with now is adding a course. So I'll just go through the journey. So the course title is something that you can choose for yourself to help you remember what the course is. It doesn't need to contain specific information. It's for your own personal use. The course type in here, this drop-down list will show you the types of courses that are available. So at the moment, users can select either Apprenticeship Standard under Funder Model 36 or other 16 to 19. We will be gradually introducing the other funding models into the service. And so I'll select the Apprenticeship Standard, enter a start date, and then a planned end date. And then the postcode for the delivery location. And this is an example of one of the links that we've got out to the guidance. On this page, you can select the apprenticeship standard that you're delivering. If you start typing, it will do a search and bring you up a list of available standards. Again, we've got a link in here to the Find a Learning Aim service. So if you do need to go and have a look to check the standard information, it will give you access to that service. If I continue on. At this point, based on the standard code that you've entered, we've identified the non-regulated aim, which is attached to that standard. And if you want to, you can add this aim to your course if you deliver that qualification, or if you want to add a different learning aim. So if, for example, you want to add in a functional skills or an MVQ, you can choose the learning aims that you want to deliver. I'll select that I want to add the aim, and then it will ask if you're delivering all of this learning aim. If you are subcontracting the delivery, it asks you to complete the Partner UK PRN. It then just gives you a summary of the data that you've entered. You can go and make any changes that you need to do. You can add a second or subsequent learning aim to the course, or once you finish, you can just click on continue. And it will now give you the option to add the training and assessment price. So at this point, you can sort of choose two routes. You can either add a price to the course that will then get applied to all the learners, although you can change it if you need to. Or if you know that your price varies for every learner and you don't want to add a price to the course, you can leave it blank and you can add the price to each learner as you enroll them onto the course. But I'll go ahead and go through the journey. Again, we've got links out to guidance, and here's an example of the help text that we've got to make to help filling these in. Enter a price. When it comes to entering the date that the price is applied from, you'll be given an option to either use the start date for your course, or you can choose to enter a different date. So if you choose to enter a different date, you'll get the date entry fields appearing. We'll just use the course start date. And then it will ask us if we've selected an endpoint assessment organisation for this standard. So if I click yes. On this screen again, as you start typing, it will list the endpoint assessment organisations that are valid for the standard that you've selected. So it will only show you the ones that are valid. Select the type of price you're entering, enter the price, and again the options on the dates are the same, to either use the course start date or to enter a different date. At this point, you've completed your course. All of that information is available for you in the service, and at any point you can go in and make changes to it or remove a section if you want to remove it all and start again. I'll now go through and add our learner, and we'll add them to the course. So if I click into add a learner. So at this point, if you know the ULN for the learner, you can enter it in here, which I will do. If you don't know the ULN, if you select no, it will take you to a screen where you can search using demographic data, a bit like you would in the Learning Record service. But what this means is you don't need to log out of our service and go to the Learner Record service. You can do it all from this one space. So I'll click through. So this will find the information from the Learner Record service. As long as you're confident that data is correct, you can save your learner. If any of the information needs to be updated, for example, if they've moved house, at this point you can go and make a change to that before you save the learner. It will now give me the option to pick the course that we want to add our learner to. So this will be a list of all the courses you've created. Providers sometimes are choosing to create them one for each academic year, maybe one for each quarter if they've got cohorts starting at different times. I'll pick the course that I've created. And what it will do now is ask you for this particular learner, what are their start and end dates? And it will give you the option to use the course start date or enter a different date. So if you've got learners starting on different points of the month, at this point you can personalise it to get the information correct. Or if all learners are starting on the same date, you can just use the default dates. And it will ask you that for the course and then for the individual aims that are part of that course. I'll ask you to fill in. So again, this will just show you the ILR fields that are relevant for this type of provision. Where fields are optional, so for example, the agreement ID, we highlight that and you can just continue without filling it in. Again, this is a field where we've got in links to the guidance to help you complete that. But because it's optional, you can skip it. You don't fill it in. Again, on the funding adjustment fields, these are optional, so you don't need to fill them in. On this page, it will just give you a summary of what you've selected. It's defaulted in some of the information for you. So because you've chosen an apprenticeship standard course, we've created the ZPROG aim for you. You don't need to go in and do that. And the same with the apprenticeship contract type fields. So where we can, we've tried to populate information for you to make life a little bit easier. And if I save and continue, this will then take me back through to the learner journey to fill in the learner fields. The reason that we've done it in this order is at this point we can make sure that we only show the learner fields that are relevant based on the type of course they're on. So for example, national insurance number is required for apprenticeship learners. If a learner was doing a 16-19 study programme, we wouldn't show that field. Where there are drop-down lists from the ILR, we've got those available in here to select, or some of the fields will be free text. Because we've already got a postcode in for this learner that's come from the Learner Record service, you can change it if you need to, but if that's the right postcode, it will give you a list of the addresses that relate to that postcode that you can select. For postcode prior to enrolment, again, we've got some help text here and you can choose to use their current postcode, or if they have relocated, you can enter a different postcode. And the contact information has been pre-populated with the data from the Learner Record service. So you can either amend that or leave it as it is if it's correct. For the disability and health question, if you select yes to this question and then continue through, you'll get taken to the list of problems that you can select from. If you had said no, it would skip that question because you don't need to provide any more details. On here, we've also got the primary reason. If you only select one, it will default the primary to be the one you've selected. As you select more than one, it takes away that and you will need to go and select the primary because obviously we wouldn't know which one it is that should be selected. The primary attainment level, again, there's a drop-down list for you to select and then to choose the date. And then employment status. And again, at this point, the questions will be tailored based on what you select to this question. So if you select that a learner is not in employment, you will see questions relating to how long have they been unemployed for. Because we'll select in paid employment, we'll see questions that are relevant to that status. So for example, we'll get asked to record an employer ID. We'll be asked to record the length of employment. So I'll fill all of those fields in. And that then is the end of adding our learner. So we've got the learner overview screen with all of the learner level information that we've just entered. And we've also got the course details tab where we can see the information of the course that the learner's on. And you'll see that at the top, we've got a status to show they're continuing. At the right-hand side, we've got links to other areas of the service. So, for example, if you need to record a co-investment payment, if you want to add any provider-specified data, if you've got any additional reference numbers. So, for example, if the learner's got a previous learner reference number, you can add all of that information there. And at the top here, you can choose to delete the learner, which will remove them entirely from the system. If if the learner didn't ever start, you can remove the learner from a course if you've added them incorrectly, or you can add the learner to a course. The record and update button gives you the ability to go in and record that a learner's gone on a break in learning, has withdrawn from the course, or has completed. So we'll just go through one of those journeys to show how that works. So the options that you get on this page will be determined based on the current status of the learner. So because our learner is currently continuing, we'll see the options to record a completion, a break in learning, or a withdrawal. If the learner was already on a break in learning, the options will be different based on that. So we'll go through the completion journey. So it asks us for the learning aim actual end date that we'll just fill in. It will ask us for the outcome, and these are the options from the ILR specification. Again, we've got a link out to the guidance if you need it. It will then ask whether the learner has also completed the programme aim, so if they've completed all of their course. So we'll select yes. We'll get asked for a learning actual end date for this to record the hours. Have they achieved or not? And then it will ask us for the achievement date. And at that point, you'll see now the learner has updated to show as completed, and we've got the information that we've just entered in terms of the course completion. That's the end of the demo of the main core journey. So we'll go back to the slides now for the final few slides before we move on to questions. Perfect, thank you. I can see the slides again. So once you've got all of your data onto Enter Learning Data, you will export your ILR file. And in the same way as you do with current systems, you'll upload that file to Submit Learner Data. You do need a DfE signing account to access Submit Learner Data. But as we said earlier, that's the same account can be used to access all of the different services. After submitting the ILR file on Submit Learner Data, it is really important that you go and check the rule violations reports and the funding reports that are made available in that service. If you have any learners that fail ILR validation, so if they have errors on your rule violations reports, they won't generate any funding, and those reports will identify those errors for you to go and either fix the data or contact the help desk if you need further support on that. FIS, which is the Funding Information Service, is also available as an optional service. That will allow you to generate some indicative reports before you upload to Submit Learner Data if you choose to. The reason that they're indicative is it doesn't have the full suite of reference data that Submit Learner Data has, but it will give you some validation reports, and it will give you a good indication of the funding position. We also wanted to just touch on Understand Your Funding. So Understand Your Funding is a dashboard that's also available within the Submit Learner Data service. And this shows the funding values that are calculated using the data that you provide. This is available automatically to anybody that has access to return ILR data. And each time you upload an ILR file, the dashboard will be updated, so it gives you real-time information on your current funding position. There are a range of dashboards available in that section of Submit Learner Data, and they will give you funding totals for both the current period and year to date. It will allow you to do year-on-year comparisons of both funding and learner counts. It will give you breakdowns by funder models and learner numbers, and also give you counts of learners by status and access to learner lists that can be downloaded. So for example, if you want to see a list of all the learners that are on a break in learning. If you want to give access to members of staff that don't return ILR data, there is a role within DfE Sign-in available that will only give access to the dashboards. And if providers have that role, they don't get access to the learner level lists because they wouldn't normally have access to the learner level information. But this gives you access to a wide variety of funding information all in one place. It also has text on it to explain how value is being calculated, and links out to the guidance that is published on gov.uk. We just thought we'd mention a couple of questions that we've had asked previously. So there is at the minute no direct link between the Apprenticeship Service and Enter Learner Data. So if you are using the ILR to create your Apprenticeship Service records, then the submission of your file in Submit Learner Data will trigger that in the same way it does now. Or obviously you can continue entering your records on the Apprenticeship Service, but there is no direct link. In terms of a limit of learners in Enter Learner Data, there is no limit. So for the learner entry tool, there was a 500 learner limit, and people did see performance issues at that point. For Enter Learner Data, there is no limit on how many learners you can add to the system, so it makes it available to more providers. And then we talked about the validation that the service does. So if you do get an error in Enter Learner Data, for example, if you've missed a field, the change links on the error page will take you directly to the field that needs to be completed. So it's really been designed to try and help you correct your data as easily as possible. But as we said, it is really important that you check the rule violation reports in Submit Learner Data to make sure that the data is all valid and you're being paid as you would expect to be. And I think our last slide is just on help and support. So we have got a guidance page on gov.uk that gives an overview of the key features of the service and provides a little bit of information on courses, etc. We've also been using communities to promote the service, and we'll post on there when functionality is available. And again, if you've got questions, you can post them on there, and other providers will provide support. And then finally, the customer portal is available if you do need further support, and you can raise a ticket there, which will get assigned to my team to support with. I think, Nick, I'm handing back to you now.
You are indeed. Thanks very much for that, Lynn. That was a great run through. So before we just move into questions, it came through as a question, or it came through as not a question actually, but there's a comment at the near the bottom of the questions to say thank you for designing a portal and a process that's consumer facing and 100% more simple than the current ILR. So I just wanted to pass that on, Lynn, as just the immediate piece of feedback that you've had through some of the questions that have come through. Thank you for submitting that response. That was really nice. But yeah, Lynn, I thought I'd just let you know that was the case, that come through. And my question pane has just disappeared. There we go, got it back again. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the questions. And thank you all for putting lots of questions in today. We'll try and get through as many as we can. So the first question that I've got, Sue, can I ask you this one? So would it be possible to change the date format displayed within the ILR fields from 18 November 2025 to a format that's day, month, year, as this would be helpful in copying and pasting data from enter learning data to external sources?
So we currently follow the Government Design System Standards, GDS, in our design. So that is why it displays as the 18th of November 2025. If we find that there is a definite user need for this change, it is something that we could look to investigate. But yeah, it is a GDS system, and we do have to follow their standards. So if we can get some more user needs in that area, definitely something we can look into.
Okay, thank you. Lynn, a couple of questions for you if I can. So one about reporting functionality. When is it going to be available on ELD? Or when is the reporting functionality going to be available on ELD to pull reports for internal use?
So we've just started some user research looking at reporting more generally across enter learning data and submit learner data. So it's an area that we are researching, and we're looking to see what we can deliver that will be helpful. If anyone's interested in being part of those, then you will get a link in the slide pack to sign up for research. But we are looking at how we can provide some kind of learner lists or filtering ability so that you can see learners that all fall within a category. At the minute, the reporting is all within submit learner data, but as soon as you submit your ILR file on submit learner data, you will get access to the funding reports and also to understand your funding, which does have some of those learner lists.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And whilst I've got you, are there any plans to develop the employer organisation records to allow linking these with, I assume that's the apprentices ILR, so that they can be reported on, i.e. how many apprentices are with a specific employer?
So the ILR field for employer ID at the minute, in a lot of cases, has that generic employer ID, so it doesn't give us that ability to actually know which employer it is. That question is something we can take forward with colleagues in the Apprenticeship Service, though, to see what we can do across the two services as to how we can provide a bit more information for you, if that's something that would be helpful.
Cool, thanks. So you've got some questions for you. Can specific codes be added against selection options when creating new ILRs for apprentices, i.e. ethnicity, add code 31 for English, Irish, etc.?
So yeah, this is something we have been looking into based on previous feedback, and we have started adding in codes in certain areas. So if this is something that is particularly useful for users, we can certainly look into adding those codes alongside the descriptions. Some of the fields already do that because we know they can be, a lot of them might be more known by the code instead of the description. So yeah, an area for us to look into.
Yeah, I mean that question went on to also talk about changes to change of circumstances codes as well, which I assume is covered in the same response.
Yes, and in fact that area is one of the ones we are currently looking into with regarding the kind of completion and statuses and things like that.
Okay, thank you. And I think let's go back a stage. There's a question from somebody saying that they can't actually locate the ELD service on the choice of services on the select a service page.
Yeah, so this is obviously from a DfE sign-in perspective. So ELD is currently only available for providers who deliver funded apprenticeships only, plus a minimum set of providers who deliver care to learn. So it has only been made available to those providers, which would explain why you're not seeing it as a service within DSI.
Also,
go on, sorry, Lynn.
I was going to say, just to add on that, when you're actually selecting it, the service will be submit learner data, but the subservice / role is enter learning data. So it might be that in the list of services you've got submit learner data, and then you need to select that and then select the role from that sub list.
Okay, if they can't find it after the session, where do they go?
They can raise a help desk ticket, or our guidance page on gov.uk does include information on how to assign the role. But if that doesn't work, then raise a help desk ticket and we will investigate and come back to you.
Okay, so I've got a link in the handout at the end to the guidance and also details for the contacts for the support desk as well. So if you still can't find it, if that delegate still can't find it after the session, then please use the guidance or the help desk Okay, cool, thank you. Another question. So could the learners tab display list? Could the learner tab display list show ILR start and ILR planned end date, please? So I think that's a question for you.
Yes, so again, this is previous feedback we've received and something we're investigating. That page is quite tight on space, so showing multiple fields within the learners list can be quite tricky. So, but something we're looking at. So yeah, keep on. This kind of feedback is really useful to us. If other people have got this kind of feedback as well, keep on sending it through.
Yes, an important point. So all of the questions that have come in today, whether we can get to them or not, and all of the feedback and comments that you're putting in there, will be shared with Lynn and Sue, so that they can see what you're saying, and they can look at the comments and work on designs for in the future of service enhancements. So yeah, it's really useful to get that feedback. So just general feedback, if you want to put it into the chat, into the questions facility as well, please do that. So another question, Sue, for you. This delegate's using ELD, really likes it. Having a problem with learners that have RPL though. So it says you don't need to reduce the duration, but ELD won't let me put a 0 in. And then it talks about the DAS bulk upload and what that does. Is there any advice on RPL?
So the prior learning field within the ILR specification. So ELD obviously follows the rules of the ILR, and that doesn't allow zeros. So because it's about showing how much prior learning there's been, reducing the amount based on that, 0 isn't a valid value. So that's why it follows the ILR specification.
Okay, and then another question for you. I assume it's the STO code. So it says, is the standard code referencing the STO code or the LARS code?
So this is the LARS code. So an example I can give is a teacher would be 822 or 823. So yes, the LARS code.
Okay, and then another question about standard code. What's the difference between standard code and the learning aim? Is the learning aim similar to the learning objectives or outcomes, or is it specific to each apprenticeship standard?
So the apprenticeship standard obviously has the standard code, which relates to the kind of standard that's being delivered, such as teacher, and the learning aims are the learning aims within that standard. So whether that is the related non-regulated learning aim, as Lynn showed in the demo, or whether whether a provider delivers other qualifications within the course of that apprenticeship, whether it be a diploma or something. So the standard relates to the apprenticeship as a whole, and the standard code would be used across all the learning aims within that apprenticeship. I hope that's given an answer.
Okay, so looking at the next couple, I've got lots more questions for you actually, so but let's keep going. Yeah, so this particular delegate will says will we need to add learners only at the start date, or just add new learners subsequent months, or do all learners get added every month?
So the ILR as a file needs to contain all of your learners for the academic year. So ELD, as you have new start, you add them into ELD. So all of your learners will be contained in ELD for that academic year, and then the export functionality will export the appropriate learners that have activity within that academic year. So once you've done the initial import, which you might do from uploading your existing ILR file, you will have a set of learners, and then as you get new starts, you will start to add them along the way. So whether it's I guess it's business processes to how you manage those, whether you add them on a monthly basis or as a group, or you add them individually. But essentially, as long as they're there when you do the export, they'll be included in the exported file.
Okay, so there were a number of questions further on about transferring data into ELD. So can you just confirm again how that happens? How do people get their data into ELD?
Yep, so there is import functionality, which will, if you have an existing ILR file, you can upload that. The import will run the current ILR validation rules against it. So it will import only learners that are valid. So just a note that any invalid learners in existing ILR files wouldn't be imported. So if you have an existing ILR file, that will import all of your learners, and then new learners that start, you can just add in as and when they start. If you don't have an ILR file or you want to start from scratch, excuse me, you can just start entering the learners through the user interface.
Okay, thank you for that. And then question about location delivery postcode. Is it optional? And the reason that's been asked is that this provider is saying that their delivery is all online.
So with online delivery, you are able to use the default postcode, which is the one that starts with ZZ99, because the delivery location postcode is a required field, so that does always need to be entered. It can be, if you have different delivery locations, you may decide to enter it at the course level, and then as you're enrolling your learners, you're able to change that delivery location postcode if you wanted to, if they're at different locations. But in this case, if it's all online, if you enter the default ZZ99 postcode at a course level, all your learners, as you enroll them, will inherit that delivery postcode, so you don't need to keep re-entering it.
Okay, another one. For FM36, do we still need to complete a program aim and a separate component aim for each apprentice?
So the program aim and the separate component aim are obviously required. So when we set up a course, we automatically create the program aim for you within ELD. So the ZProg 001 aim will be created. However, you will still be able to manage that within the system by changing dates and completions and stuff within there. So yes, they are still required as separate aims, but we will automatically create the program aim for you.
Okay, and then one more, then I'll ask Lynn a question. So can you use this ELD if you've used the old ILR and submitted data that way?
Yes, absolutely. So I presume by the old ILR you mean the learner entry tool. So this system is intended as a replacement for the learner entry tool. And so if you've got an existing ILR file because you've used it, you can, as I explained before, import it and use it from then on. So I think we had a question about whether you needed to use ELD if you are using a different ILR system or even the old LET system, and the answer is no, you only need to use one. So if you're currently using LET and would like to transfer over, you can do that as an apprenticeship only provider. If you're using another ILR system, then you don't need to use ELD unless you want to.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Lynn, a couple of questions for you. Are there any guides on how to process and restart a learner who's come back from a break in learning? And also, what situation would a training provider record a partial achievement? So 2 questions in one there, I guess.
Yeah, so the break in learning, we have got on our guidance page explanation about how that works. when you go through the record and update journeys, like I demoed the completion, if you do a break in learning, it will take you through screen by screen what you need to complete. And then if the learner comes back, you can then do a restart. And again, it will guide you through that journey and just get the information that it needs, and will then create a new set of learning aims for you. Because when a learner returns from a break in learning, you create a new set of learning aims, and the system will do that for you based on the information that you enter. So it's quite straightforward to do a break in learning.
Thank you.
And so
what about the bit about the and what about partial achievement? What situation would a training provider record partial achievement?
I will need to go and check that one. I mean, that's one of the options in the ILR. So what we display on screen are the codes that are currently available to providers, but I would need to go and double check.
As I understand it, partial achievement is probably less relevant for apprenticeships. It's where a provider may have been doing say they're working towards a level 3 certificate and they passed the level 2 but didn't get the level 3, so it classes as partial achievement, but I'm not sure it applies for apprenticeships.
Okay,
so
thank
much.
you. And then Lynn, if you log in a completion on the service, is it still required to log an assessment result on the assessment service portal?
Yes, so that will be, I believe, in the apprenticeship service, so that will continue as normal. The completion in enter data is just for your ILR data.
Okay. And then Sue, just for clarification, the question about whether the system supports 16 to 19 funding ILR submissions as well as apprenticeships, or is it just apprenticeships?
So it will at some point support 16 to 19. So we're aiming to include all funding models within ELD, and they will be released as and when we get those developed. At the moment, it's just funded apprenticeships. Soon to be included non-funded apprenticeships, and then, as I say, all of the funding models, including 16 to 19, will be added in subsequent releases.
Cool, thank you. We'd normally draw the Q&A to a sort of a halt about now, after about 15 minutes or so, but we've still got quite a few questions to go through and still got a little bit of time. So if it's okay, I'm going to carry on for a few minutes before I wrap up. This question, Lynn, I think probably deserves a webinar in its own right. What's the purpose of FIS?
So FIS is completely optional. You don't need to use it. And it's there to really give you indicative reports before you upload your data to Submit Learner Data. So normally there's about 1 week a month when you can't make your submission on Submit Learner Data because we're processing the month end. So FIS is available at that point if you want to get indicative reports, and it will help you with things like validation as well. But it is completely optional. And you don't need to use it. Everything that you get within FIS, you will get from Submit Learner Data. The exception being that within FIS, if you want to, you can get output files that you can import into other systems if you want to do maybe analysis of funding calculation outputs. But it is entirely optional, and there's no requirement to use it if you're not already.
Okay. And then I'm not sure who to ask this one to, but probably both of you, Lynn, also. Will the learner entry tool still be in use in current academic funding years?
So the plan is that we will, once we've got all of the funding models within Enter Learning Data, Learner Entry Tool will not be available. It will just take a bit of time for us to get there. What we would really do is encourage anybody who's delivering apprenticeships to move across, because we do think it's a much better experience and you can move across in year. And at some point in the future, Learner Entry Tool will no longer be available.
Cool, thank you. So is it easy to delete records for apprentices who fail to start?
Yes, so there is delete learner functionality which will remove that learner from the system, and equally there is also a remove learner from course functionality, so just a case of following through the relevant screens to do that.
Okay, thank you. And Lynn, will provider be contacted if there are any errors in the submission, or do they have to rectify and resubmit? So how do they pick up on issues?
Yeah, so when you submit your file on Submit Learner Data, you will normally get a notification when your reports are available once the file has been processed. So that will be your notification to go and have a look at your reports. You'll need to have a look at the rule violations report to see if you've got any errors. If you have got any errors in your data, you can then go back to Enter Learner Data in order to make any data adjustments, correct any data you need to, and kind of export a new file and load it in. So you'll be notified the reports are available. You won't be notified specifically you've got an error. If you're unable to resolve the error, if you need further help, you can always contact the help portal for advice, and they will be able to see the reports that you're looking at and guide you through it.
Okay, thank you. And then Lynn, a couple of questions about when people could start to use ELD. So, when can they start? Can they start now? Can they change mid-year if they're using the old Submit Learner Data methods? So how, if somebody wanted to pick it up from next month, next period, is that okay? Can they do that?
Yep, so Enter Learner Data is already available. As we mentioned before, it is only for funded apprenticeships at the minute. Non-funded apprenticeships will be the next funding model that we bring on board early in 2026. There's a link to the service from the Submit Learner Data homepage, so you can access it. And you can switch at any point during the academic year. You will just need your ILR file that you can import in, and that will then bring all your data into the new service. As Sue mentioned earlier, it will only import valid ILR learners, so you do need to make sure you've got a clean data file before you import it in. But at any point during the year, you can import your data in and start using Enter Learner Data.
Okay, and then another one for you. Will the ELD export an XML document for uploading to the SLD?
Yes, so there's an export functionality within the service that will create an ILR file in the right format. And from that part of the service, you'll see a list of your learners, so you can choose which learners you want to include in the file. If you want to exclude any for any particular reason, you will then create the file and it will be made available for you, so pretty much straight away. There's also an export history on there, so if you ever want to go back and access a previous file you've exported, you can access all of the previous files as well. They're all available for you.
Okay, and then a question about searching for employer ERNs. So it says when using the employer ID, it asks for the employer ERN to be inputted in order to find the employer in order to find the employer ID. Therefore, it causes difficulties in searching for ERNs. I hope I've done that question justice. Does that make sense?
Yes, no, it does. So yeah, so the employer ID is one of the mandatory fields in the ILR. But for the last few years, you've not been able to create new records. If you don't know what it is, you can use the generic employer ID, which is just the set of 9s. If you go to Submit Learner Data, there is an option to use the employer search, and you can search an employer name and postcode. So you don't need to have the employer ID to search on that service. It will do it based on name and postcode, and it will give you some options if one is available.
Okay, I'll skip through a few questions if I can. Will there be a section? No, this is Lynn. This is a question for you. Will there be a section to add in co-investment?
Yes, so at the right-hand side of the screen where we looked at the sort of more action section, there's a link there to record a payment. If you click on that, it will let you go in and record a co-investment payment that you've received from a learner, from an employer.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to call it there, I think, on the questions. There's still some questions that we haven't got to, but I mean, what I will say is Sue, is there anything that you've noticed from scrolling through in terms of a topic or a subject that we haven't covered yet, that you'd like to just give a minute or two on addressing?
No, I think we've covered the major ones, which is about switch of usage and how you get files in, how you get the data in, etc. So nothing else is standing out to me, although there are some quite specific questions that we haven't necessarily addressed yet.
Okay, and Lynn, same question to you. Is there anything that you noticed scrolling through that we haven't addressed that you'd just like to spend a few seconds on now?
No, I think, like Sue said, I think we've covered all the sort of broad topics. What I would say is, I know we're going to circulate information. There is links on there to our guidance document and to the help portal. So if there are specific questions that you've got that we haven't been able to answer, please raise a help desk ticket. They will come across to myself and Sue, and we will respond to everybody via that route if there's something particular that you would like an answer on.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for doing such a great job going through all of those questions. That's a longer Q&A session than we normally have the luxury of doing. So thanks for everybody for submitting the questions, and thanks to Sue and Lynn for getting through as many as we did. Okay, so I think if we can move on. Okay, yes. So I just wanted to remind you about the YouTube channel. I mentioned it earlier on my first slide. It's at DFE Sector Comms, and as you'll see from the screen that we've got 3 playlists on that channel. The recording of today's session will be in the Apprenticeship Service webinar recordings playlist, and that'll be about in 3 or so weeks' time. We also have our all of our support videos covering the different functions of the Apprenticeship Service that are in the Using the Apprenticeship Service playlist. And videos created to support the delivery of apprenticeships in general are available on the Apprenticeship Support Videos playlist. So please go and have a look at that, subscribe to the channel, and click on the bell icon and get alerts when new content's uploaded. And then finally on this next screen, that's coming up just in a second. Yep, there you go. So on this slide, we've got the links to the places you can go to access additional support. So you can now go to the handouts tab, and you can download the PDF document with all of the links that Lynn's mentioned already, and the links that you can see on this screen. So you can download that now. So in terms of other ways to stay up to date, I'll always plug apprenticeships.gov.uk. You should all know about that site now. If you don't, go and have a look, but share it with your employers that you work with as well. Lynn has already mentioned the communities page, so the Further Education and Training Providers community page, which is that peer-led discussion forum for providers. We like to run regular webinars throughout the year, so to register for any of our future webinars, I'll put the link on the handout and on the slide for you to do that. We've also got the links that Lynn mentioned about the Enter Learning Data Guidance, the ELD Start page, and the Customer Help Portal. And if you want to take part in the user research that Lynn mentioned, there's a link on there as well, and that's going to help support the ongoing development of this service. And some of the questions and stuff that you put in today, some of the comments you put in today, will also be shared with the team and be used to support the ongoing development as well. And then if you've got specific queries about the apprenticeship service about the apprenticeship service, you could use the self-service support tool, and you can email the support team as well, and their contact details are on the slide and the handout. Okay, so that's it. That brings us to the end of the session. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to Lynn and to Sue for all of their work and their insights in giving the demo and answering all the questions. And as you leave, can you please remember to complete that short survey and let us know what you thought. Okay, thanks everybody. Bye, and enjoy the rest of your day.